The Overstood Human Podcast. Unfiltered dialogue, real solutions, no labels. The Overstood Human Podcast exists to inspire people to live with strength, freedom, and a purpose in a world full of noise and division. We champion a life anchored in true health, strong family, personal sovereignty, and self-discovery, inspiring our listeners to thrive beyond the confines of the design system. Our mission is to inspire you to break free from mediocrity, think independently, and live a life of meaning, resilience, and impact. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Overstood Human Podcast. I am Frank Tortorici.
And my name is Sarah Green.
Awesome. Today is a very important topic for everybody to listen to, especially for those that are in the midlife crisis portion of their life, like myself. Well, first of all, how you doing, Sarah? It's been a minute. Everything good on your end?
I'm good. It's crazy busy. Lots of changes happening, but it's amazing. So
Awesome.
for sure.
Good. Yeah. So today is the focal point is going to be on menopause / manopause. That's right. There's both sides, both male and female are affected by this in their for most people in their 40s into their 50s. Some people hit it even earlier in their mid to late 30s. But I think it's important to have a basic understanding of what's going on in the body with menopause / manopause, right? From my vantage point in my line of work as a functional diagnostic nutritionist, one of the main focal points is hormone health, balancing the hormones through different types of protocols: diet, rest, recovery, exercise, supplementation, sleep. There's so many different variables there on ways to help bring the body to a place of balance, homeostasis. But I want the medical professional to give I guess just give you listeners what exactly is menopause / manopause, and then we can kind of like unpack it from there. Sarah, I'll give you the floor.
Sure. I mean, I guess clinically a diagnosis of that would be a woman who hasn't had a period for 12 months consecutively. So that's like your medical term. The men, it's probably just a drop in testosterone, and it's not really there's not really a way that you can necessarily claim that now you are in menopause other than symptoms. Symptoms are probably one of the biggest signs for both men and women. So medically that's what it is, but women can start, hormones can be changing at a much younger rate. And so sometimes, and I'm a believer in bioidentical hormones. I think that there's definitely more benefit than there is risk for the vast majority of patients. Symptom control, and there's a lot of things that hormones can help benefit, like bone density. I think we maybe that will be a topic we discuss, because it's critical to make sure that you have good bone density as you get older. Brain health and cardiovascular health are all things. And then you've got the aesthetic stuff, your skin. For women, painful intercourse is another sign. So medically, it's no period for 12 months consecutively. And the men, I think, more symptoms, but labs can show you testosterone drop, DHEA drop.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and a lot of things happen during that period of time, right? Like, there's the classic signs, right? Extra weight gain, right? Disruptive sleep, mood swings are, I think, are a big one. I think, that's one of the things that I find to be very tragic in our society, is that, so many people, and we've touched on this on past episodes about the over usage of medication in our society. And it's like, how many people are dealing with, say, like a hormone imbalance or a decrease in hormones, and then they're being prescribed some sort of a psychiatric medication because they're dealing with depression, mood swings, anxiety, insomnia, things like that. Really, from your vantage point as a medical professional and doing what you do, it's very solution based, right? It's very, you're not treating symptoms. You're trying to figure out, how do we correct what's going on, in a sense. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah. I mean, most women, I think probably we discussed, and there's more information and research behind women going through it because a lot of things change. They get very emotional. Yes, weight
Hmm.
gain. They can't sleep, and so when you go to your allopathic insurance approved provider, the
Hmm.
first thing they're going to do is put you on an antidepressant and a sleep aid, and that's like the worst thing you could possibly do. So we're just putting Band-Aid again with a ton of different side effects, very addicting medications, and then things that it's very hard to wean off of an antidepressant. So we don't treat the underlying cause. And I can't tell you how many women are like, I don't want to, I don't want meds. I just want to know what's wrong.
Right.
Um, I don't want to go on these things. So um, it's actually quite tragic.
Mm.
And you get, women can't sleep. So one of the key things on balancing hormones and just overall body restoration is sleep. It's vital. We've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
And if we're not getting good sleep, we can't fall asleep, we can't stay asleep, night sweats, it's just going to keep adding up, and you're going to get to that. That's why they call it like a midlife crisis, right? So
Hmm.
I truly think that has a lot to do with the hormonal changes in men and women. Um, and we see, I mean, you see it, I see it, like younger and younger and younger. My
Yeah.
men, I'm shocked at like 20, 30, 40-year-old men who have testosterone of 80 and 90-year-old men because all
Hmm.
of the forever chemicals, parabens, microplastics, glyphosate, like we're just being poisoned all the time. And these neuroendocrine disruptors are a key factor in what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's important. It's very important to be aware of that. A lot of the things that you were able to do, 15, 20 years ago, you can't do anymore,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
the body is forever changing. Um, I mean that even holds true to like healthy foods, right? Certain vegetables, fruits, things like that. There are things like, for example, for me, like leafy green vegetables. I used to live on them. I can't go anywhere near them now. It's just, my body metabolizes them differently now than I did 15, 20 years ago. But that's like a safe scenario, right? What I'm really getting at is the people who are, still letting loose on the weekends and eating fast food, processed foods, out, overconsumption of alcohol, things like that.
Mhm.
Um, I've even seen things with caffeine usage, coffee, like people who are big coffee drinkers, and as they get older, their body, once they kind of have an aha moment of like maybe the caffeine is wigging out my cortisol patterns and creating me to like have excess body weight, things like that. I've seen miracles even that take place with just cutting back on caffeine for somebody who's aging. Whereas, in your 20s and 30s, it typically revs up somebody's metabolism, caffeine. It acts as a diuretic. So it's very important to, we have to adapt to where we're at in life, and we have to be open to changing how we proceed through our day, if you will, of
Mhm.
what we're putting in our body. Um, so why do you think, I mean, why do you think? I mean, it's kind of an obvious answer, but let's hear you say it anyway. Why do you think that if Sally Jones goes to the doctor and she's 43 years old and she's going presenting all of these symptoms of what could be like, menopause, she checks all the boxes, but yet Dr. So and so is putting her on antidepressants? What Because this is a very common scenario, right? This is a
Very,
very, very, very common scenario.
yeah.
So, without addressing the hormone issue and then putting someone on something like that, what, what kind of events can somebody like, see in the foreseeable future? In a sense, like what are they going to make a crash landing into menopause rather than a soft landing? Like what happens to people?
Yeah, I mean, all we're doing is putting a Band-Aid over it. You're still going to have all those ups and downs. You're still going to experience all of those symptoms, but now you're kind of almost numb to it. That with the antidepressant and the sleep aid, and then you become addicted to those medications.
Hmm.
It's a setup for disaster, and unfortunately, the medical system and the education that we get, it truly is an indoctrination. We're taught how to become legalized drug dealers. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
There's no, I don't want to sugarcoat it because there's no sugarcoating. We aren't talked about. We don't have lectures and discussions, at least in the allopathic training programs, to discuss changes in hormones and what you do and what you can add, and bioidenticals. Those are all things that you have to take additional courses for. Integrative medicine. It's it's functional medicine. You're going to have to take yourself outside of the typical Western medicine training to learn those things. But yeah, no, it's and there's so much. I think there's so much negativity and hype on hormones, and oh well, that drives cancer, and oh, the studies actually show that it does not. Now there is a
Mhm.
type of estrogen that was given to females, and for over 20 years this was the prescribed estrogen. It was an equine estrogen, and so it's coming from pregnant mare horses urine. And
Was it Premarin or something like that?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
what could possibly go wrong, right?
Yeah.
I'm taking an oral estrogen, and I don't ever prescribe oral estrogens. The risk is too high, but it's an oral estrogen coming from a pregnant female horse. Like, it just doesn't, that can't be good for our bodies. And so you want
Mhm.
compounding pharmacies, and we're not taught about compounding pharmacies in our education system either. So there's this, and really they allowed this drug to be on the market for over 20 years, and then they went, oh crap, like we're seeing this huge spike in breast cancer, estrogen driven breast cancers. And so then they just decided that they were going to link hormones to
Right.
cancer. And that's not really fair.
Right.
So I think that going on hormones appropriately can actually prevent some of these, cancers, but you have to find someone that knows what they're doing. And it's going to be someone that has training outside of your typical Western medicine provider.
Mhm.
But people are waking up. I've had conversations with different people over the last couple of weeks, and I think at this point, society has realized that going to your primary care doctor that insurance covers is you're not going to get healthier. And so people are now taking their own health into their own hands, and unfortunately it means that you're going to be paying out of pocket because
Yeah.
insurance won't cover it. Like, we're so indoctrinated to think that we need health insurance, and we're so indoctrinated to think that like anyone who doesn't have it is crazy. But then you got to think about, like, your health insurance is the same beast that owns big pharma, which is the same beast that controls vaccines, which is the same beast
Mhm.
that controls the banking system, which is the same beast that controls the government. Like, it's all the same beast.
Yeah.
And so if you use your insurance to get you to a provider, they're going to only do what they're allowed to do. So you have to go outside that box. And unfortunately, until, I don't know, I don't have really any hope for change. I mean, I
Yeah.
love it, but if we
Yeah.
think government's going to change, like
Yeah.
we're idiots, because fool me
Yeah.
once, on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so you have to go take your health into your own hands and find somebody who has taken the courses and understands what's going on. Um, but I think menopause and menopause is happening in an earlier and earlier and earlier uh, time period. Same with girls developing, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
girls 8 years old starting periods and have breasts, and you're like, what is happening? It's not like, you know, look at all the hormones in our food supply. Look at all the chemicals in our food supply. Look at all the chemtrails. And if you don't believe in chemtrails, that's another story. But yeah, so
Huh.
we are developing at a much earlier age, and then we are going through changes and stages that we didn't see until the mid 50s, early 60s, and now it's like 35 women are starting to experience this. So
Right.
it's actually quite sad, but
Right.
it's definitely something that needs to be talked about. And if you see anything that says parabens, PFAS, forever chemicals, that is what is disrupting your neuroendocrine system.
Mhm.
So we've talked about this, but body wash, laundry soap, dish soap,
Mhm.
shampoo, conditioner, lotions, makeup, um, whatever we put on our skin, because we forget about that, right? We're like, well, I'm not eating anything that has it, but whatever we put on our skin, we're actually absorbing into our body. our,
Yeah.
our skin is the biggest organ in our body, and it's porous.
Yeah.
So we will take in whatever we put on our skin, like sunscreens, all those chemicals, and it will forever change your body's ability to produce and make hormones. So you have to be very cognizant. You have to be aware. You have to read labels and ingredients, but there's ways to try to halt this, but it's going to take
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, definitely cosmetics,
Yeah.
cologne, perfume,
Oh, yeah.
fragrances. Those are the shampoos. Those are huge ones. And look, it's you can't live in a bubble, but I mean, the beauty of it is this is 2026 and there's alternatives to everything that we're talking about here. If this conversation was happening in the mid 90s, you would literally have to probably live in a bubble. There was, not as much to choose from as there is now. You'd have only a select few companies that you can choose from to interchange products that you're using. And if it's a priority to you, then you have to look at all of these variables because they all add up, right? Everything that we do day in and day out is depositing checks,
Hmm.
if you will, into the bank of our overall health. So you can't say, oh well, that doesn't matter. No, it all matters. It's just a matter of what matters to you mentally and how far are you willing to go in a sense to be able to combat, because I always say father time waits for none of us, and it's not about living forever. um, it truly is about aging gracefully, and
Hmm.
that truly, I really believe that is 100% a choice. We can all either have a crash landing, or we can glide smoothly with a parachute, and then plop very very gently into the later portion of our life. um, and like I said earlier, it really goes down to being able to part ways with actions, activities, things that you're doing that you may have been able to get away with 20, 30 years ago, that again your body's changing now, right? And we the crazy thing is, coming from my line of work, from the fitness aspect for so many decades now, it's when people are younger, they're more active, and right, it's like the older we get, the more serious we get about life, the more sedentary we get. And I really try my hardest that when I work with people, I really try to brainwash them into, like, the older you get, the more active you need to become, right?
Yeah.
You cannot take the position of, oh, life, I'm tired now. I just want to retire and, sit in the chair and watch, 10 hours of TV a day.
Hmm.
You will deteriorate. I mean, because of the hormone decline, that deterioration process is happening whether we like it or not. But it's the things that we choose to do day in and day out that can help combat this process,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Um, and it's such an important thing. So being sedentary is truly not an option for the person who wants to age gracefully. And again, I bring it back to basics, and we've talked about this before on several of our episodes, but just the importance of resistance training, how crucial that is for every person, especially in their midlife crisis phase, like we are. um, there's and look, these other forms of exercise serve purposes. Hit high intensity interval training, Pilates, yoga, they all serve purposes, but nothing can come close and hold a candle to what resistance training is going to do for a person who's in hormone decline,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's not my opinion. That's a scientific fact of, like, when people are doing movements like, say, a barbell deadlift, a back squat, a power clean, old school, just kind of like powerlifting movements that incorporating the whole body. And for women, one of the big things I always hear is, "Oh, I don't want to get bulky. I don't want to gain muscle." Just know, I mean, Sarah, you work out. Tell the
Yeah.
women how hard it is to bulk up and put, like, muscle on. I mean, I always come from the school of thought, like, if a person can put on 2 to 3 to 4 pounds of quality muscle in 1 year, that's a lot. Because most people, when they bulk up, like in fitness, they, oh, I'm really bulking up. It's because of your diet. Like the lean quality muscle tissue, that doesn't just happen overnight, especially and again, in our midlife crisis age range. Like, that's not happening very easily. Granted, there are people whose body really responds,
Sure. And
but
that's okay.
yeah, yeah, but all in all, don't go into this thinking that, wow, if I do, like, barbell back squats or something like that in 3 weeks, I'm not going to be able to fit into my jeans. My quads are going to be touching, so I'm going to feel like the Incredible Hulk. Like, it's not going to unfold like that. I promise you. I promise you. Um, and again, because these resistance training is known to help increase testosterone, produce HGH. Back to what you said before of us doing an episode on bone density, it's crucial for bone density. So anyone listening to this who is, I would say, I think at any age, right? Even if you're in your teens and your 20s, like you, because getting the ball rolling then is only going to pay off dividends in our at our age demographic now. But for anyone listening to this, as soon as you can start performing some sort of consistent resistance training in your day-to-day life, at least 3 to 4 days a week, and doing it properly, I should say, because a lot can go wrong. And there's a lot of the people who think that they, just because they did their workout, they did a workout. And there's there's
Yeah. Yeah.
right. I mean, we know those people in the
Yeah.
gym who
Right.
are just sitting there the whole time and yapping away and da da da, and they're
Yep.
like, and then
It's a
if you see
social
them,
club. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like you have to work out, like
Hmm.
you definitely have to work out and do it properly.
Hmm.
Muscle confusion, exhaust the muscle, pyramid setting, unloading phases. Like there's a method behind how to do it safely and get those proper results. And that's going to stimulate the metabolism, build the bone density, stimulate the hormone health, collagen production. Um, we all know exercise helps with endorphins, your brain, right? Mental health. So there's just so many benefits. So, we must get out of the mindset of what can I take and start asking what can I do? I know I say that a lot
Yeah.
because it's
It's
really
true.
true, you
It's
know?
true. It's true. And I will see I'll see changes in my patients' labs, especially testosterone. If they're eating clean, you got to make sure you're eating red meat, right? You've got to, and
Mhm.
clean red meat. I think people are kind of like, oh, my red meat and eggs, like my cholesterol. I'm like, don't worry about
Mhm.
your cholesterol. Like that's a
Mhm.
whole other, I mean, that's a whole other topic. But they sleep well, they drink good clean water, they've changed some of their habits, they're lifting weights. Like I will see that number go up, just
Mhm.
that. And I bioidentical hormones for women, a little bit different for men. Although anyone that I put on testosterone, one of, because women make testosterone too. I think there's
Sure.
like this confusion. Men make estrogen, and
Mhm.
and women make testosterone. Our levels are much different. So if I'm going to put my male on testosterone replacement, it's going to be a much higher dose than for my females. But we both need it, and we both make it, and they're both critical for bone density, heart health,
Mhm.
cardio, everything, everything. Um, but I will stress the fact that if I start you on testosterone, um, it's really hard to get off. And the reason is you've got this negative feedback loop. And so if I now start giving you testosterone, your body's going to stop making it.
Mhm.
And so getting off of it, if you decide you no longer want to be on it, is not as easy as just stopping. I mean, you can stop it, no big deal, but you're going to then have a huge drop in your testosterone until the body realizes, wait a minute, nothing's coming in anymore. So although I think bioidenticals are great, testosterone is great for men if they need it. That is an important conversation to have with men. And it will lower your fertility rate. So I've got some young males who want to go on testosterone, not because they want to bulk up, but because they just don't have any. And if they're men that are looking at having families or want more children, it's going to,
Mm.
it's going to have a negative impact on that.
So
Uh,
I have a question off of what you just said.
mhm.
If somebody's in their, mid to late 30s and they start testosterone and want to come off, there's obviously a higher probability of their body kicking back into gear of testosterone production. But if we start talking a man who's, say, 52, 53, 54, somewhere in there, and they come off of it, what does that look like for them? It's not gonna, I mean, I'm assuming it's not gonna be as easy for things to kick back into gear at that age than it would for somebody in their 30s.
Right, right. And they may never make what they made as their baseline prior to starting testosterone.
Mhm.
So they may never get back to that same level
Mm.
when they're off.
So, from your vantage point, when do you make that decision for a patient, like to say, okay, I think it's time for you to go on this? Like, is there, what's your school of thought on different types of herbs, ashwagandha, the different types of organ meats, um, yohimbe bark, tonka ali, maca, things like that that can stimulate, that are known to stimulate, is like deer antler, ancient, it's more than Chinese medicine.
Sure.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? If somebody comes to you and they're not so gung ho, if they really don't want to be on it, but they're taking your advice and they're going to do it, do you think it's wise for them to maybe try some other avenues like of those types of before they go into that route? How
Yeah,
would you approach something like that?
absolutely. I use it as my last resort. So I'm not going to push testosterone on someone. If I see levels, like I care more about how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get a male patient and I order testosterone, and there's total testosterone and there's free testosterone, right? So your total is like what your body's making, but
Mm-hmm.
your testosterone is what your body's utilizing. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to know that your body's making it, but what's more important for me is that you're actually utilizing it. And so I will, as soon as I start telling them about some of the things that they might experience and like if they ever want to get off, I usually will weigh them into trying other things first.
Mm-hmm.
Which is my goal. I mean, I've got it as the last resort, which is
Right.
fine, but not what my first go to is. Um, and I will see labs that look awful, and they're like, "No, my libido's fine, my muscle mass is fine, I have energy. And I'm not gonna mess with that, right?" So we're just the indoctrination is crazy. So we're gonna look at labs, and here's your reference window, which is pretty drastic. So big pharma's reference window, and then there's your optimal level. So the reference window is, depending on what your lab test is, you could have like 200 all the way up to 1100 on your total.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and someone could be making 200 and they feel great. I'm not gonna mess with that.
So
Um,
why, if their numbers are that low, why do they feel great though? How would you
they're
equate that?
they're
What would
not
you?
they're not they're not letting it affect them. Like I think that they just haven't really thought about it. I mean, I have
Mm-hmm.
men who just are coming in for routine labs. They're not getting labs because of any particular reason other than they're getting their annual labs.
Right.
um and then I'll burn every avenue possible before we go on to testosterone. But if they're like, look, I have nothing, I have no drive, and they know, again, risk benefits alternatives, informed consent, which is like out the window since COVID. I make sure they understand that, and if they still want to continue with it, low and slow is how I start out. But no, I try to exhaust, and I can get a decent rise in free and total testosterone if they just change some of their habits.
Right.
But back to like weightlifting, that's critical for everybody. I mean, cardiovascular, whatever. But when you start lifting weights, longevity, hormones, overall mental status, weight loss, I think my patients lose more weight when they're actually lifting
Mm-hmm.
than when they're running or bicycling or elliptical, whatever. You burn more. So the
Mm.
more muscle mass you have, the more calories you're going to burn.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think another thing for people that are listening to look at, hey guys, this is Frank.
My name is Sarah, and please join us next week for part 2.
Thank you for watching the Overstood Human Podcast. Be sure to join in next week. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Always consult with your physician before starting any exercise program or doing anything contained in this podcast.